The cafeteria on Sanctuary Station stretched out like a massive metal cave filled with light and noise. Hundreds of beings from dozens of worlds sat at tables, ate strange foods, and spoke in languages that sounded like music, grinding rocks, or whistling wind. The air smelled like 1,000 different meals cooking at once. Day wiped down another table and smiled at the small blue creature that chirped its thanks. He had been working in the cafeteria for 6 months now, and he still found it amazing. Every day brought new faces, new species, new chances to learn something incredible about the universe. He was a human, which meant most aliens found him interesting in a boring way. Humans were new to the galaxy. Only 15 years had passed since the first contact. Most species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They looked at humans like adults looking at children who just learned to walk. Day didn't mind. He was here to study xenobiology and make friends. The cafeteria job helped pay for his education and gave him chances to meet beings he would never see in a classroom. His roommate Hana always laughed at how much he loved working here. "You're the only person I know who gets excited about serving food to aliens," she had said that morning. The lunch rush was ending. Day carried his cleaning supplies back to the storage area and checked the time. His break was starting. His stomach rumbled. He had been too busy to eat breakfast. He grabbed a simple meal from the human food section. Rice, vegetables, and some protein. Nothing fancy. He walked to his favorite table in the corner, where he could watch the whole cafeteria and eat in peace. The noise level was normal, happy sounds. Day sat down and started eating. The rice was still warm. Perfect. Then the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Conversations died down table by table, like lights going out across a city. Day looked up from his meal. Everyone was staring at the entrance. 3 Krell walked into the cafeteria. Day had seen Krell before. They were reptilian, standing nearly 7 feet tall, with scales that looked like armor and eyes that saw everything. Their home planet was famous across the galaxy. Warrior culture, honor codes, strength above all else. These 3 were young. Cubs, the Krell called them. But even young Krell were dangerous. They moved like predators, their tails swishing behind them, their clawed hands flexing. Day recognized them. Everyone on the station knew them. For the past 3 weeks, these 3 had been causing problems. They pushed smaller species around. They took food from other students. They claimed seats that belonged to others. They said they were practicing warrior skills. Station security had talked to them many times. But the Krell Empire was powerful. The station administrators walked carefully around diplomatic problems. So the Cubs kept doing what they wanted. Day watched them scan the cafeteria. Other aliens looked away quickly. No one wanted to be their next target. A family of small, furry beings gathered their food and hurried to another table when the Cubs walked near. The lead cub was the biggest. His scales were dark green with red markings. He laughed at the fleeing family. His 2 friends joined in. Their laughter sounded like rocks scraping together. Day turned back to his food. He had 10 minutes left on his break. He wanted to eat in peace. Maybe they would ignore him. They didn't. Heavy footsteps approached his table. Day could feel the vibrations through the floor. He kept eating, hoping they would pass by. They stopped right next to him. "Human," the lead cub said. His voice was deep and rough. "You sit in our spot." Day looked up slowly. All 3 cubs stood around his table. The other 2 had moved to block any escape route. The cafeteria had gone completely silent now. Hundreds of eyes watched. "Hello," Day said calmly. He spoke in the common trade language that most species used. "I didn't know this table was reserved. There are many empty tables available." The lead cub's eyes narrowed. "I say it is our spot now. You move." Day took a breath. He had dealt with difficult customers before. Anger never helped. "I'm on my lunch break. I'll be done in a few minutes. Then, the table is yours." The cub's tail lashed back and forth. "You move now. Or we move you." Around the cafeteria, aliens whispered to each other. Some were pulling out their communication devices, probably recording. Others were gathering their belongings, ready to leave if violence started. Day set down his utensil. He could call for security. His friend Jiwan was working today. But that would take time. And it wouldn't solve the real problem. These cubs thought they could push anyone around. They thought being strong meant being right. Listen, Day said, keeping his voice level. I don't want trouble. But I was here first. When I finish eating, you can have the table. That's fair. The lead cub stared at him for a long moment. Then, without warning, he reached out with one clawed hand and swatted Day's tray off the table. Food scattered across the floor. The metal tray clanged loudly in the silence. Rice and vegetables splattered on Day's uniform and the ground around him. Oops, the cub said. He smiled, showing many sharp teeth. Day stood up slowly. Food dripped from his shirt. He was careful to keep his movements calm and controlled. The cubs stepped back slightly, giving him room. They expected him to walk away. Those for money can't. That's what everyone else did. Every alien in the cafeteria watched. Day could feel their attention, like weight, on his shoulders. He had a choice to make. He could leave, call security, file a complaint, let the administrators handle it with more diplomatic talks that changed nothing. The cubs would keep bullying others. The cycle would continue, or he could draw a line. Day looked at the lead cub. Really looked at him. Studied his posture, his stance, his confidence. The cub thought he had already won. He thought humans were weak, soft things that ran from real warriors. Maybe it was time to teach a different lesson. No. Day said quietly. The word dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. Ripples of shock spread through the watching crowd. Several aliens gasped. The two other cubs looked at each other in surprise. The lead cub tilted his head. What you say? Day straightened his shoulders. He was shorter than the Krell, and much lighter, but he didn't move back. I said no. This is my table. I was here first. You're being bullies, and I'm tired of watching you push people around. The lead cub's face changed. His eyes went cold. His mouth opened slightly, showing more teeth. You challenge me, human? I'm asking you to leave. Day said. Go find your own table. Stop bothering other people. Act like the warriors you claim to be, instead of thugs picking on those smaller than you. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then, the lead cub lunged forward with shocking speed, his clawed hand swinging toward Day's face. The cafeteria erupted in screams, and Day moved. The clawed hand cut through the air, where Day's head had been a moment before. Day had ducked and stepped to the side. His body remembered training from years ago. His muscles knew what to do even when his mind was still catching up. The lead cub stumbled forward from his missed strike. He wasn't used to opponents who dodged. Most creatures either ran away or stood still in fear. Day didn't give him time to recover. He grabbed the cub's extended arm with both hands. His fingers found the joint where the forearm met the wrist. He twisted hard and pulled down. The cub roared in surprise and pain. His legs buckled as Day used the alien's own momentum against him. Suddenly, the massive Krell was on his knees, his arm locked in a position that sent sharp pain through his shoulder if he tried to move. The other 2 cubs stood frozen for a second, shocked by what they were seeing. Their leader, the strongest among them, was on the ground controlled by a small human. Then they both attacked at once. Day saw them coming from the corner of his eye. He released the first cub and spun away. One cub's claws scraped across the table where Day had just been standing. The other lunged low, trying to tackle him. Day jumped backward. But the second cub was fast. Its shoulder hit Day's leg. They both went down hard on the cafeteria floor. The cub was on top, heavier and stronger. It raised one clawed hand to strike. Day brought his knee up hard between them, hitting the cub's chest. Air whooshed out of the alien's lungs. While it gasped, Day twisted his hips and rolled, throwing the cub off balance. He slipped out from under the weight and scrambled to his feet. The first cub, the leader, was getting up now. His eyes burned with rage. Blood showed on his arm where Day's grip had cut through scales. Around them, the cafeteria had become chaos. Aliens were screaming, running for exits, or climbing on tables to see better. Some were definitely recording everything. All three cubs circled Day now. They moved together like a pack. They had stopped underestimating him. Now they were hunting. Day's heart pounded in his chest. His breath came fast. Fear touched his mind, but he pushed it away. Fear made you freeze. Fear made you slow. He couldn't afford either. The lead cub spoke in the Krell language, harsh and quick. Day understood enough to know he was giving orders to the others. Attack together. Overwhelm the human. Make him pay for the insult. They came at him from three sides. Day didn't try to fight all of them at once. That was suicide. Instead, he moved toward the weakest one, the cub on his right, who had hesitated a fraction of a second longer than the others. He ducked under the cub's swing and struck hard with his palm into the alien's throat. Not enough to really hurt, but enough to make breathing difficult for a moment. The cub choked and stepped back. The other two were on him instantly. Claws raked across his shoulder, tearing his uniform and drawing blood. Pain flared hot and sharp. A tail whipped around and hit his ribs. He heard something crack. Day grabbed the tail on instinct. He pulled hard, yanking the cub off balance. At the same time, he kicked backward, hitting the third cub's knee joint. The alien's leg bent the wrong way with a pop. 2 down. 1. Still fighting. The lead cub roared with pure fury. He forgot his training. Forgot his warrior discipline. He just wanted to hurt Day now. He charged, like a wild animal. That was his mistake. Day stepped to the side at the last second. He stuck out his foot. The cub tripped over it and crashed into a table. Metal bent under the impact. Food and trays went flying. Before the cub could get up, Day was on him. He had learned this move years ago in a self-defense class on Earth. It worked on humans. It worked on Krell, too. He got his arm around the cub's thick neck from behind and squeezed. Not the windpipe. That could kill. But the blood vessels on the sides. Cut off blood to the brain for a few seconds, and anyone went to sleep. The cub thrashed and clawed. His tail whipped wildly. His claws tore gouges in the floor. But Day held on tight, wrapping his legs around the alien's body to stay in place. He squeezed harder. 10 seconds. 15. 20. The cub's movement slowed. His eyes rolled back. His body went limp. Day held on for 5 more seconds to be sure, then let go and rolled away quickly in case it was a trick. He stood up, breathing hard, pain shooting through his ribs and shoulder. All 3 cubs were down. One was gasping for air, holding his throat. One was clutching his knee and whimpering. The leader was unconscious on the floor. The cafeteria was absolutely silent again. But this time, it was a different kind of silence. This was the silence of shock and awe and complete disbelief. Hundreds of aliens stared at Day. Their eyes were wide. Their mouths hung open. Some species didn't have mouths, but Day could see their equivalent expressions of total surprise. A human had just defeated 3 Krell cubs, alone, in less than 2 minutes. Day wiped blood from his lip where one of the first strikes had landed. His shoulder hurt badly. His ribs felt like fire. But he was standing. The cubs weren't. The main doors burst open. Ji-Wan ran in with 4 other security officers. They wore armor and carried stun weapons. Ji-Wan's eyes went wide when he saw the scene. Day? What happened? Day tried to speak but started coughing instead. His ribs definitely hurt, maybe broken. He pointed at the cubs, then at the mess on the floor that had been his lunch. Ji-Wan put it together quickly. He had been dealing with complaints about these cubs for weeks. He signaled to the other officers. Get medical teams here. For everyone. Secure those three. 2 officers moved to restrain the cubs, even though they were barely moving. The other 2 approached Day carefully, like he might be dangerous. I'm fine, Day managed to say. Just defending myself. We saw on the security cameras, one officer said. She was from a species Day didn't recognize, with silver skin and too many eyes. We were already coming. But you moved so fast. Ji-won grabbed Day's arm, supporting him as his adrenaline started to fade and the pain got worse. You idiot. You could have been killed. They knocked over my lunch, Day said. He knew it sounded stupid, but it was true. And they've been hurting people for weeks. Someone had to stop them. So you decided to fight 3 Krell? Alone? Ji-won shook his head. Hana is going to kill you. After she finishes, being proud of you. Around them, aliens were starting to move again. Some were leaving quickly, probably wanting to get away before more trouble started. Others were moving closer, trying to get a better look at the human who had done the impossible. Day heard them whispering in dozens of languages. He caught words in the common tongue. Dangerous, strong, deathworlder. Never underestimate. Never. Medical teams arrived with floating stretchers. They loaded the 3 cubs first. The lead cub was starting to wake up, groaning and confused. The medics examined Day's injuries. Broken ribs, confirmed. Cuts and bruises. Nothing life-threatening, but painful. You need to come to medical, one medic said. She was humanoid, but with green skin and gentle hands. And then, to security. To make a statement. Am I in trouble? Day asked. Ji-won and the green medic exchanged a look. That depends, Ji-won said slowly, on how the Krell Empire responds. You just hurt 3 of their young, even if it was self-defense. Day's stomach sank. He hadn't thought about that. He had just reacted, just defended himself. But this wasn't Earth. This was a station where dozens of species and governments all had to cooperate. And he had just created a major diplomatic incident. As the medics led him away, Day looked back at the cafeteria. Aliens were cleaning up the mess. Others were still standing around, talking excitedly, pointing at the spots where the fight had happened. His quiet life as a student and cafeteria worker had just ended. He had no idea what would happen next. The holding room was small and cold. Day sat on a bench with his ribs wrapped in medical bandages and his shoulder covered in healing gel. The cuts on his face had been sealed with something that smelled like mint. He could still taste blood in his mouth. Ji-won stood outside the clear door, talking quietly with other security officers. Through the transparent wall, Day could see him shaking his head, gesturing with his hands. The conversation looked intense. Day tried not to think about what would happen to him. He had defended himself. That was legal everywhere, wasn't it? But laws got complicated when different species were involved. What if the Krell didn't see it as self-defense? What if they saw it as an attack on their young? The door slid open. Ji-won stepped in, followed by Hana. Her face was tight with worry and anger. You fought 3 Krell, she said. Not a question. A statement of fact that she still couldn't quite believe. They started it, Day said. It sounded childish even to his own ears. Hana sat down next to him and punched his good shoulder. Hard. Ow, Day said. You're an idiot, she told him. But her eyes were wet. A complete idiot. You could have died. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to eat my lunch. Ji-won pulled up a chair. The station administrators are meeting now. The Krell parents have already been contacted. They're demanding justice. Quote, these Krell parents. Day's stomach dropped. Justice? They want you punished according to Krell law. For attacking their cubs. I didn't attack them, They attacked me. We know, Ji-won said. We have everything on security cameras. The whole station saw what happened. But the Krell don't care. To them, you injured their young. That's a crime that deserves death. The word hung in the air like poison. Death. Hana grabbed Dae's hand. We won't let that happen. I've already contacted the human embassy. They're sending someone. Who? A diplomat named Minho. He's supposed to be good at this kind of thing. The door opened again. A tall woman with 4 arms entered. She wore the robes of a station administrator. Her face was hard to read, covered in blue fur, with eyes that saw in more colors than humans could imagine. Dae, she said. I am Administrator Velnix. Do you understand the severity of your situation? I was defending myself, Dae said. That may not matter. The Krell Empire is powerful. They have influence in this sector. If we do not handle this carefully, there could be serious consequences for the entire station. So you're going to give me to them? Dae felt anger rising in his chest. Sacrifice me? To keep the peace? Velnix's fur rippled. We are trying to find a solution that satisfies everyone. But you must understand. This is bigger than one person now. Other species are watching. They saw what you did. A human defeating 3 Krell. Some are afraid. Others are interested. You have changed something here today, whether you meant to or not. Before Dae could respond, alarms blared through the station. Red lights flashed. An automated voice spoke in multiple languages. Attention. Important visitors arriving at Dock 7. All personnel prepare for diplomatic reception. Velnix touched a device on her wrist. She listened for a moment. Then her eyes widened. The Krell have sent someone. War Chief Toran himself. Ji-won cursed. That's not good. Who is War Chief Toran? Dae asked. One of their most respected military leaders, Hana said quietly. He's won battles against 3 different species. He's a legend among the Krell. And he's here for me? Velnix nodded. The hearing has been moved up. It starts in 1 hour. You need to prepare yourself. They took Dae to a larger room where he could clean up and change clothes. Hana brought him a fresh uniform. Ji-won stayed close, like a bodyguard. Dae appreciated it even though he knew his friend couldn't really protect him from what was coming. 30 minutes later, a human arrived. Minho was younger than Dae expected for a diplomat. He wore a formal suit and carried a data pad. He shook Dae's hand firmly. I've reviewed the security footage, Minho said, without any greeting. You fought well. Better than well. Where did you learn combat like that? Just self-defense classes on Earth, basic stuff. Nothing about that was basic. You used joint locks, pressure points, and took advantage of their attack patterns against 3 opponents, larger and stronger than you. Minho studied him. You're trained. I took classes for a few years. That's all. That might save your life today. The Krell respect warriors. If we can frame this correctly, we might get you out of this. The hearing room was enormous. It had been designed for gatherings of multiple species, with different types of seating and atmosphere controls. Dae walked in with Minho on one side and Hana on the other. Ji-won followed behind them. The room was already full. Representatives from dozens of species sat in the observer sections. At the front, behind a curved table, sat 5 judges from 5 different species. Administrator Velnix was one of them. On the left side of the room stood the 3 cubs, now healed but looking smaller somehow. With them were 2 adult Krell, probably their parents. The parents looked at Dae with pure hatred in their eyes. On the right side stood War Chief Toran. He was massive, even for a Krell. His scales were dark as night, with scars crisscrossing his arms and chest. Each scar told a story of battle. His eyes were sharp and intelligent. When he looked at Dae, the human felt like he was being measured and weighed. The judges called the hearing to order. The charges were read. Assault on 3 minors. Endangering diplomatic relations. Creating a violent incident in a protected zone. The Krell parents spoke first. Their words were harsh and demanding. They wanted Day executed. They wanted him made an example. They wanted justice for their injured cubs. Minho stood to defend Day. He presented the security footage. He showed how the cubs had attacked first, how Day had tried to de-escalate, how he had only fought when given no choice. And where did this human learn such violent ways? One of the Krell parents demanded. How can you claim self-defense when he clearly knew how to kill? Knowing how to fight and choosing to kill are different things, Minho said. Notice in the footage that Day could have seriously injured or killed these cubs several times. He didn't. He restrained them. He used minimal force necessary to stop the threat. He choked my son unconscious, the mother cub roared, to make him stop fighting. It was a blood choke, not an air choke. Your son woke up minutes later with no permanent damage. If Day had wanted to kill, your son would be dead. The room went very quiet. Then, War Chief Toran stood. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire chamber. I wish to address the human. The judges looked at each other, then nodded. You may speak, War Chief. Toran walked toward Day. Each step was heavy and deliberate. He stopped 3 feet away, towering over the human. Day forced himself not to step back, not to show fear. Human called Day, Toran said. I have watched the footage of your fight, multiple times, and I have questions. I'll answer what I can, Day said. His voice only shook a little. You fight unlike any species I have seen. You do not rely on strength or speed. You use leverage, timing. You turn your opponent's force against them. Where does this style come from? From Earth. My home world. Humans aren't the strongest or fastest. So we learned to fight smarter. Show me, Toran said. Everyone in the room stirred. The judges leaned forward. War Chief, this is a hearing, not a training session, one said. I wish to understand, Toran replied. How can I judge this human's actions if I do not understand his methods? If he truly knows the warrior's way, or if he is just a thug who got lucky? Day looked at Minho. The diplomat gave a tiny nod. This was a test, maybe their only chance. What do you want me to show you? Day asked. The hold you used on the cub, the one that made him sleep. Show me how it works. This was dangerous. If Day refused, he looked weak. If he agreed, he would be putting his hands on a Krell war chief. Either could go very wrong. But Day had already made his choice when he stood up to the cubs. He wasn't going to back down now. All right, he said. But I'll need your permission to touch you. And I'll need you to tell me when to stop. Meinen. Round. Toran smiled, showing many teeth. You have my permission, little human. Let us see what you can do. Day approached War Chief Toran slowly. Every eye in the hearing room watched. Some aliens leaned forward in their seats. Others activated recording devices. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. I'm going to move behind you, Day explained. The technique works by applying pressure to the blood vessels in the neck, not the windpipe. That's important. It stops blood flow to the brain temporarily. The person passes out in seconds, but wakes up fine, with no damage. Toran nodded. I understand the theory. Show me the practice. 10 Day well. 10 Day well. Day moved behind the massive Krell. Up close, he could see every scar on Toran's scales. This was a warrior who had survived countless battles. Day's hands looked tiny compared to Toran's thick neck. I'm going to put my arm around your neck now, Day said. Tap my arm twice, if you want me to release you. Proceed, Toran rumbled. Day reached up and wrapped his arm around the warchief's neck. He positioned his inner elbow against one side, his bicep against the other. Then he brought his other hand behind Toran's head and squeezed while pulling back slightly. 5 seconds passed. 10. 15. Toran stood completely still. Then his hand came up and tapped Day's arm twice. Day released immediately and stepped back. You felt it? Toran reached up and touched his neck. His eyes were bright with interest. Yes, the pressure. If I can get the position, yes. It's harder on moving targets. The cubs were focused on attacking me. They didn't expect it. Toran turned to face him. And the other techniques? The joint locks? Where are those from? Different martial arts from Earth. Jiu-jitsu, judo, aikido. Some military hand-to-hand combat. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We got good at it. Judo. The war chief walked in a slow circle around Day, studying him like a puzzle. You are small, weak, compared to Krell. Yet you defeated 3 of our young. How? Day thought about his answer carefully. Because fighting isn't just about strength. It's about strategy. Understanding leverage and physics. Knowing that a joint only bends certain ways. That balance matters more than muscle. That fear and pain can make anyone make mistakes. You speak wisdom, Toran said. He turned to address the judges and the full room. This human fights with the mind of a warrior. Not with honor. Perhaps, as we Krell know it, but with effectiveness, with purpose, and most importantly, with restraint. The Krell parents stood up angrily. He attacked our cubs, the father shouted. No, Toran said firmly. Your cubs attacked him. I have watched the footage. They initiated aggression. They struck first. They outnumbered him 3-1. By our own warrior code, the human had every right to defend himself. He is not Krell. Our laws do not apply to him. But honor should apply to everyone, Toran said. His voice carried authority that silenced the parents. Your cubs behaved without honor. They picked on smaller beings. They bullied those who could not defend themselves. For weeks, I am told. Multiple reports. Multiple incidents. He pointed at the 3 cubs who stood looking at the floor. They thought being Krell made them superior, made them untouchable. This human taught them a valuable lesson. He taught them that strength without wisdom is useless. That size without skill means nothing. That honor matters more than winning. Toran turned back to Day. I find no fault in your actions, human. You defended yourself well. You showed mercy when you could have shown cruelty. You are a warrior, whether you claim that title or not. The judges conferred quietly among themselves. Administrator Velnix spoke for them. We have reviewed all evidence. We have heard testimony from all parties. We find that Day acted in legitimate self-defense. All charges are dismissed. All charges are dismissed. Relief flooded through Day's body. His knees felt weak. Hana grabbed his arm to steady him. Minho smiled slightly. But the Krell parents weren't done. This is not justice, the mother cried. Our cubs are injured. Our pride is damaged. The human must pay. Toran's expression hardened. Your cubs' injuries are healed. Your pride was damaged by your cubs' own dishonorable behavior. As for payment, I suggest you pay more attention to their training. Teach them true warrior values, instead of allowing them to act like common thugs. The father Krell took a threatening step toward Toran. You defend aliens over your own kind? You are a traitor to Krell. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Toran moved with frightening speed for someone so large. In 1 second, he was across the floor. His hand gripped the father's throat. He lifted the other Krell off the ground with one arm. I defend honor, Toran said quietly, dangerously. I defend the warrior code that has made Krell great for 10,000 years. Your cubs had no honor in that cafeteria, and you have no honor now, questioning my loyalty because I will not support your lies. He dropped the father, who fell gasping to the floor. Toran looked at the cubs. You 3. You will come with me. I will personally supervise your retraining. By the time I am done, You will understand what it truly means to be Krell warriors. Or you will fail and bring no more shame to your families." The cubs looked terrified, but they bowed their heads in acceptance. Among Krell, refusing a war chief's order was unthinkable. The hearing ended. Beings filed out of the room, chattering in dozens of languages. Day heard snatches of conversation. Words like human and dangerous and respect kept repeating. Toran approached Day one final time. "Human Day. Thanks? For what?" "For teaching our young ones a lesson they needed to learn. For showing the galaxy that strength comes in many forms, and for reminding me that warriors can be found in unexpected places." He placed one clawed hand on Day's shoulder, gently, despite its size. "Your species is new to the stars, but I think you will do well. You have the hearts of fighters and the minds of survivors. That is a powerful combination." He left with the 3 cubs following behind him like scared children. Minho shook Day's hand. "You did well. Better than I expected. The footage of this hearing is already spreading through galactic networks. You're going to be famous." Quote, "I don't want to be famous. I just want to go back to my normal life." Hana laughed. "Too late for that. You just became the human who fought 3 Krell and earned a war chief's respect. Normal is gone." She was right. As they left the hearing room, Day could feel it. The way other beings looked at him had changed. There was still curiosity. But now there was also wariness, respect, even fear. Over the next 3 days, everything changed. News of the cafeteria incident spread across the station and beyond. Video of the fight was viewed millions of times. Experts analyzed every move Day made. Commentators argued about what it meant. Other humans on the station noticed differences immediately. Aliens who used to ignore them now nodded in greeting. Some species gave them more space in corridors. Others approached, wanting to ask questions. Jiwan reported that security requests for human officers had tripled. "Everyone wants to learn human combat techniques now," he said. "They think we're all secret warriors." Day tried to return to his classes and his cafeteria job, but it was impossible. Students stared at him. Professors asked him questions about human fighting styles. His boss in the cafeteria wanted him to teach other workers self-defense. Then came the message that changed everything. A group calling themselves the Ascendancy sent a public communication to the station. They were a coalition of species who believed in a natural hierarchy. Strong species should rule. Weak species should serve. They had been minor players before, mostly ignored. But now, they declared that humans were a threat to the natural order. Deathworlders who had hidden their violent nature. They demanded that humanity be restricted, monitored, controlled, and they were sending representatives to Sanctuary Station to make their case. Worse, there were whispers of something else. An assassin. Someone who wanted to make an example of Day before he could inspire other humans to show their strength. Minho called an emergency meeting in a secure room. Day, Hana, and Jiwan attended. "This is serious," the diplomat said. "The Ascendancy has support from several powerful species. They're afraid of what humanity represents. Change. Disruption to their comfortable power structure." "What do we do?" Hana asked. "We face it head-on," Minho said. "We show them who humans really are. Not through fighting, but through honesty. Through openness. We tell our story." "Our story?" Day said. "Where we came from. What we survived. Why we are the way we are. The galaxy needs to understand humans. Really understand us. Before fear turns into something worse." Day looked at his friends. At the diplomat who had saved his life. "And if they still see us as threats?" Minho's expression was grim. "Then we show them that being a threat and being aggressive are 2 different things. We didn't come to the stars to conquer. But we also didn't come here to be victims." Outside the secure room, the station continued its daily rhythm. But underneath the normal sounds and routines, something was shifting. The galaxy was watching humanity with new eyes. And soon, very soon, humans would have to decide what they wanted the galaxy to see. The attack came on the 5th day after the hearing. Day was walking back to his quarters after a long shift. The corridors were quiet this late at night. Most beings were sleeping or in their own sections. He was tired. His ribs still ached sometimes, reminding him of the fight. He didn't notice the shadow following him until it was too late. Something struck him from behind. Hard. He stumbled forward, pain exploding across his back. He spun around and saw a figure wearing dark clothes and a mask. In its hand was a weapon that crackled with energy. The assassin struck again. Day dodged, but the weapon's edge caught his arm. Pain and electricity shot through his body. He fell to one knee. "First human to die on Sanctuary Station," the assassin said. Its voice was filtered through the mask. "A message to your kind. Know your place." The weapon raised for a killing blow. Then Hana slammed into the assassin from the side. She had followed Day, worried about him walking alone. Her tackle drove the attacker into the wall. The weapon clattered to the floor. Jiwon rounded the corner, his security armor on, and his stun weapon drawn. The assassin was fast. It threw Hana off and ran. Jiwon fired but missed. The figure disappeared around a corner. Alarms blared. Security teams mobilized. But the assassin knew the station well. It vanished into the maze of corridors and maintenance tunnels. Day's arm burned where the weapon had touched him. Medics came and treated him. The wound wasn't serious, but the message was clear. Someone wanted humans dead. The station went into lockdown. Administrator Velnix ordered a full investigation. Every corridor was searched. Every being questioned. But the assassin had escaped. Minho arrived at the medical center where Day was being treated. The diplomat's face was hard with anger. "This changes things. The Ascendancy claims they had nothing to do with it. But we know better." "What happens now?" Day asked. "Now we stop hiding. The Galactic Council is meeting in 3 days. Representatives from every major species will attend. They want to discuss the human question. We're going to answer them. How? By telling the truth. All of it." The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Minho worked with Earth's government to gather information. History. Data. Hana helped compile it all into a presentation. Jiwon coordinated security, making sure no more attacks could happen. Day spent the time recovering and thinking. About what it meant to be human. About what made his species special and what made them dangerous. About the truth they were going to share. The day of the council meeting arrived. The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous, built to hold thousands of beings. Every seat was full. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to hear what humanity would say. Day sat in the front row with other humans from the station. Hana held his hand. Jiwon sat on his other side, alert and watchful. Around them, aliens of every shape and size watched with curious or hostile eyes. Minho stood at the central podium. Behind him, a massive holographic display came to life. "Members of the Galactic Council," Minho began. "You asked about humans, about who we are and what we represent. You've seen one human defend himself against 3 Krell. Some of you were impressed. Others were frightened. Today, I want to give you context. I want to tell you our story." The hologram showed Earth, a blue and green planet that looked peaceful from space. "This is our home. Earth. To you, it might look like a paradise world. Beautiful. Full of life. But Earth is what we call a death world." The image changed, showing massive storms. Earthquakes that split the ground. Volcanoes that turned day into night with ash. Ice ages that covered continents. Heat waves that boiled seas. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years. Every season brought new dangers. Winter could freeze you solid. Summer could bake you alive. Predators hunted us. Diseases plagued us. Our own world was our greatest enemy. The hologram showed early humans, struggling to survive. Hunting with simple tools. Hiding in caves from storms and predators. We were not strong like the Krell. We could not fly like the Vryn. We had no natural armor or weapons. We were soft, weak, slow. By all logic, we should have died out. But we didn't. The images changed to humans making fire, creating tools, building shelters, working together. We survived because we learned to think, to cooperate, to adapt. We couldn't outrun the predators, so we learned to outthink them. We couldn't survive alone, so we built communities. We couldn't fight the world with strength, so we used our minds. The hologram showed human history, agriculture, cities, art and music and science, but also war, terrible, brutal conflict between human tribes and nations. We also fought each other. For thousands of years, we killed our own kind over land, resources, beliefs. We learned to fight in every environment, against every type of enemy. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some species nodded, others looked more nervous. But here is what you need to understand, Minho continued. We also learned to stop. We learned that cooperation was better than conquest. That peace was stronger than war. That diversity made us better than uniformity. It took us a long time. Too long. We nearly destroyed ourselves learning these lessons. The hologram showed space exploration. Humans reaching for the stars. First contact with alien species. When we met you, we saw an opportunity. A chance to be better than we had been. To explore instead of conquer. To learn instead of dominate. To make friends across the stars. Minho paused. The hall was completely silent. You've asked if humans are dangerous. The answer is yes. We come from a death world. We know how to fight. We know how to survive. Every human carries the potential for violence because our world demanded it. But we also carry the potential for kindness, for compassion, for love, for sacrifice. We are complicated beings. We contain multitudes. We can be your greatest allies or your worst enemies. The choice of which we become is not just ours. It is also yours. The ascendancy representative stood. It was a tall, insectoid being with clicking mandibles. You admit you are dangerous. You admit you are violent. Why should we not restrict you? Control you? Protect ourselves? Minho turned to face it directly. Because restriction and control breed resentment. Because treating us as threats will make us into threats. Because we are offering you friendship, and rejecting it would be the greatest mistake you could make. Empty words. The ascendancy representative clicked. We have seen your violence. One human defeated 3 trained Krell warriors. Imagine what millions of humans could do if they decided to attack. Then let me show you something else, Minho said. He gestured to Day. The human you speak of is here. Day. Please stand. Day stood slowly, his heart pounding. Thousands of eyes turned to him. Day didn't want to fight, Minho said. He tried to de-escalate. He offered peace. Only when attacked did he defend himself. And even then, he showed restraint. He could have killed those cubs. He didn't. That is what humans are. We fight when we must. We show mercy when we can. War Chief Toron stood in the Krell section. I support the humans' words. I have seen their warrior spirit. But also, their honor. They are worthy of respect, not restriction. Other voices joined in. Species that had worked with humans on the station. Scientists who had collaborated with human researchers. Traders who had found humans to be honest partners. But the ascendancy and its supporters pushed back. The debate raged for hours. Arguments flew back and forth. Some species feared human potential. Others embraced it. Finally, Administrator Velnix called for order. We cannot decide humanity's fate in one meeting. This requires careful consideration. But I propose this. We establish a trial period. Humans continue to integrate into galactic society. We monitor, yes, but with respect. We learn from each other. And in one standard year, we reconvene to assess. The proposal passed by a narrow vote. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. After the meeting, Day stood outside the assembly hall with Hana and Jiwon. Other humans gathered around them. Some were crying with relief. Others looked worried about the future. Minho joined them. It's not over. We'll face more challenges. More skepticism. Maybe more attacks. But we have time now. Time to prove ourselves. What do we do? Hana asked. We live, Minho said simply. We work. We study. We make friends. We show the galaxy who humans really are. Through our actions. Not just our words. Over the following weeks, things slowly changed. The attempted assassination had shocked many species. Even those who feared humans didn't approve of murder. Public opinion shifted slightly in humanity's favor. Day returned to his studies and his cafeteria job. But now, when he worked, other beings sometimes joined him. A Vrin student asked to learn human cooking. A small, furry alien that had been bullied by the cubs thanked him for standing up for those who couldn't defend themselves. Jiwon started teaching self-defense classes, not just for humans, but for any species that wanted to learn. His classes filled up quickly. Beings discovered that human fighting techniques worked even for species with different body types. The principles were universal. Hana's engineering projects suddenly had alien collaborators. Species that had ignored human technology now wanted to see what humans could create. And Toron kept his word. The 3 Krell cubs underwent intensive training under his supervision. Months later, they returned to the station. They were different. Humble. Respectful. They found Day and formally apologized for their behavior. You taught us more than any training could. The lead cub said. His voice had lost its arrogance. You taught us that honor isn't about being the strongest. It's about doing what's right. Day accepted their apology. They didn't become friends exactly, but they developed mutual respect. 1 year after the cafeteria incident, Day stood in that same cafeteria during lunch rush. It was full of noise, and life, and energy. But this time, the noise was different. It was friendly, collaborative. At tables around the room, mixed groups sat together. Krell and humans sharing meals. Vrin and small furry beings comparing notes. Species that had never interacted before now laughing together. Hana slid into the seat across from him. The council vote is today. Are you nervous? A little, Day admitted. What if they decide to restrict us? After all, they won't, Jiwon said, joining them with his tray. Too many species have seen what we can offer. The ascendancy is losing support. He was right. When the vote came in later that day, humanity was fully accepted into galactic society with no restrictions. The trial period was deemed a success. That night, humans on Sanctuary Station celebrated. But the celebration was not exclusive. Aliens joined them. Friends they had made over the past year. Colleagues, teachers, students. Day stood at the edge of the party, watching. Minho appeared beside him. You started all this, you know, the diplomat said. One fight in a cafeteria. One moment of standing up for yourself. It changed everything. I didn't mean to, Day said. The best changes often start that way. Small actions that ripple outward. You showed the galaxy that humans wouldn't be pushed around, but also that we wouldn't push others around. You found the balance. Day thought about the cubs, about Toron, about the assassin and the trial and all the fear and hope that had followed. What happens now? Now we keep going. Humanity has a place in the galaxy. What we do with it is up to us. We can be explorers, traders, scientists, teachers, warriors, when we must be, friends when we can be. We get to choose. I choose friend, Day said. Minho smiled. So do I. And I think most humans will make the same choice. The cafeteria that had fallen silent in fear now buzzed with voices in 100 languages, all speaking as equals. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest but through courage, not through violence but through standing firm when it mattered. And in that moment, looking at all the different beings, sharing space and food and friendship, Day understood something important. The galaxy was big enough for everyone. Different didn't mean dangerous, and sometimes, the bravest thing you could do was simply refuse to back down when you knew you were right. The future was uncertain. Challenges would come, but humans would face them the way they had always faced challenges, together, with determination, and with hope that tomorrow could be better than today. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.